Okay. Welcome to the candidates meetings for candidates for the North Dakota Legislature from Districts 41 and 45 this evening, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. We have members of the League of Women Voters here this evening who are from Moorhead and Fargo, Cass County, and Clay County. And we really appreciate the hard work that the League of Women Voters is doing. Janet Jackson is our timer tonight, and the co-president of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley, Patty Kratke, is also here this evening. We're going to start off with introductory speeches for people from District 45, and you're going to have a 2-minute introductory speech. And the timer is Janet Jackson, is right here in the front row, and we'd appreciate it if you stayed within the 2-minute time. We're going to start with the person on my left, Tom Fiebiger, who is running for the Senate in District 45. Tom, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting these important forums. My wife, Siri, grew up in North Fargo, and North Fargo has been our home for over 20 years, where we've raised our 2 sons who are now both grown. It's been a real honor and privilege for me to serve my neighbors in District 45 in the State Senate these last 4 years. When I ran and was elected in 2006, property taxes were a nightmare. Together with my colleagues in the legislature, we increased state funding to our schools to the long-sought goal of 70% to lower our local burden while reducing our property tax burden by $295 million. In the Senate, I serve on the Transportation and Judiciary Committees, where I bring my 25 years' experience as an attorney representing North Dakotans to the legislature. That includes being a listener, an advocate, and a negotiator for the people in District 45 and the people in North Dakota. Our children are our future, and I've worked hard for children and families to help create an environment where they can thrive. I fought to expand the Children's Health Insurance Program. I worked across party lines to co-sponsor legislation to provide millions of dollars in funding to improve and expand child care for our working families. I've been endorsed by the North Dakota Education Association and received a 100% score by the Children's Defense Fund. I want to return to Bismarck to secure continued property tax relief and also secure permanent flood protection funding to protect our community. I've developed good working relationships with legislators throughout the state, East and West, Republican and Democrat, and I think that relational piece will be critical to securing the funding. Mayor Wallaker understands that, and he's endorsed me for re-election to the Senate. We need continued emphasis on education from early childhood through college. We need to continue to create jobs, but good paying jobs for our people so they don't need to have 2 or 3 of them to support their family. With our opportunities come the challenges of being good stewards of our dollars, planning and investing them wisely to create a brighter future for all North Dakotans. So I'm excited to have a chance to continue serving my district and ask for your vote again on November 2nd.
Very good, thank you. When the introductory speeches are done, we'll be collecting questions. In fact, we're doing it now, questions that are written out by people in the audience, and we'll be asking questions for a 1-minute response following the 2-minute introductions. The next person with a 2-minute introduction is Ronald Sorvag. Ronald.
Thank you. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum. I'll apologize. I got a little tickle in my throat, so if I take a drink or you catch me with a cough drop, I'm sorry about that. Again, my name is Ron Sorvag. I grew up at Argosy, North Dakota on a farm. I was farming until about 12 years ago, 11 years ago, kind of transitioned out. But I have lived in District 45 for 30 years in North Fargo. I was backwards. I kind of commuted to the farm and lived in Fargo in District 45. I own and operate a business with my wife, Carla, who will be 32 years. We were married coming next week, and we have a business that we started from scratch in our basement 15 years ago. And it's growing now that we're in our 3rd location, and we have some employees, and we've had great success with that. Two grown children. My son's an assistant golf pro up at Edgewood, and my daughter lives in San Francisco and works with Interchange Ministries with the homeless and runaway young adults in the Golden Gate Park area, which really gives me another perspective to a different part of the world. I'm a small business owner, so I understand the bottom line. I understand what rules and regulations can cost a business, how they can affect the opportunity of doing the #1 thing, which is creating jobs. Main focus when I get out there is going to be infrastructure, education, and jobs, but jobs is number one because that's what really brings a future to everybody. But with that, I thank you again for coming.
Thank you for your introductory speech. The next introductory speech will be from Ed Gricella, District 45. Ed.
Thank you. I'm Ed Gricella. Also, thank you for hosting this event. I have lived in Fargo since 1989. I'm married. My wife, Renee, she's the pretty one over there with blonde hair, and for 37 years, and the other one. And we have 3 children. They all grew up in North Fargo, went to North, and went off to college, and had jobs away from the state. And now we've got them all back here in North Dakota. We have 3 grandchildren. We're trying to help repopulate the state. My daughter is not married. She's the only one not married. She's up at UND getting her PhD. And I retired from the North Dakota Highway Patrol in 2003. Since that time, I've been self-employed as a private investigator, and I have a business where I sell fire, police, and ambulance safety equipment. I was elected in 2006 to the North Dakota House, kind of a last-minute fill-in candidate. I had never planned on running for office, but I accepted the challenge and went out to Bismarck. And since that time, I've been was on the Transportation Committee and the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee, and was able to participate in the kind of the revamp of the workers' comp or workforce safety and insurance debacle that went on. And also, I found myself getting a lot of the law enforcement bills that come through. I've worked on a lot of traffic safety issues, and I think that's probably going to remain my focus. I have several bills in the hopper now, including a no texting bill and a graduated driver's license bill. And yes, to Al Carlson's chagrin, I'll probably bring back the primary seatbelt bill again. Okay, that's about it for me, and thank you for having us.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is going to be Joe Heilman, who is running for the House in District 45. Joe.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and more particularly, thank you to the citizens for being here. It's always great to see engaged people in our community who care about the issues. But I guess my background is I grew up in Rugby, North Dakota, on a farm south of town, and came to the big city to try to make nice with all the city folks, and came to NDSU, pursued a degree in, at first, mechanical engineering, and then came into business, and that's what I graduated with. And so my experience at NDSU really kind of got me engaged into the political world that is North Dakota, and it was a very great experience. I was actually elected by my peers to be the student body president in 2008-2009, which was a terrific experience, gave me opportunities to testify in front of the legislature on many issues important to the youth in North Dakota, and particularly students. And then Governor Hoeven asked me to be on the North Dakota Youth Council last year, which was an initiative that came out of the 2009 legislative session. And that's a group of young individuals who basically are to advise the legislature and governor on issues regarding youth issues, and Senator Tim Flackel serves with me on that committee. And it's been really great to be able to talk the issues with some young leaders in our state, and I'm committed to continuing the good work that Governor Hoeven and the legislature has put forth in North Dakota, growing our economy and providing world-class education for the young people in our communities so that we can retain the good quality and skilled people that are in this state, because we all know we have wonderful people, but we want to keep them here so that we can continue to benefit from their productivity and services. So I'm really running in this race to provide a youthful voice and experience that is unique to a North Dakotan in terms of what's happened with me at NDSU. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Andrew Marshall. How do I pronounce your last name?
Marshall.
Marshall. Okay, that should be easy. 2-minute speech. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the Women League of Voters for having this forum. I've served for 23 years in U.S. military and returned to my roots here in North Fargo to raise my son. As a small business owner like Ron, I have to be concerned with the bottom line. The bottom line in Bismarck is to use the state's resources wisely. It is vital that we keep a close eye on spending while providing funds needed to our priority programs. Setting priorities is an everyday event for a small business owner. I know how to set priorities and accomplish them. I will also be the voice and the legislator for the men and women in the National Guard and for our veterans. As Governor Hoeven has said, we owe our freedom to the men and women in our military. I will never let that be forgotten in Bismarck. I am running for the State House to keep small business in North Dakota growing and to prospering, and to help men and women in our military and their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last 2-minute speech before we collect the cards for the questions is going to be Prairie Rose Seminole, who's running for the House in District 45. Prairie Rose.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight, and the City of Fargo for giving us some staff so we can broadcast to everybody, and for the members in the audience, thanks for participating with us tonight. My name is Prairie Rose Seminole. I'm a candidate for the State House of Representatives in District 45. I've lived in Fargo my entire life. I'm a second-generation Bison and the first generation living in the city. My mom's and my dad's family come from western North Dakota and still farm today out in Linton, North Dakota. As a young adult, I made a commitment to building community through my involvement through leadership positions in civic organizations and youth commissions with the City of Fargo. In 15 years, I worked for positive change in our community, and I credit my early years of appointed service to the City of Fargo former Mayor Bruce Furness, who appointed me to serve with the Metropolitan Area Youth Commission in 1995. From then, I continued to serve with the City of Fargo, serving again by the appointment of Mayor Furness to the Human Relations Commission, and again by appointment with Dennis Wallaker to the Human Relations Commission. I served the City of Fargo for the past 8 years, and during the last 4 legislative sessions, advocating for to ensure rights for people's disabilities, veterans, our young people, our diverse population, and our students by advocating for curbing tuition hikes and supporting loan forgiveness programs. I feel the skills I've developed and insight into government can be put to use for our district and for the people of North Dakota. As a first-time candidate, I asked the members and voters of District 45 to support me in my pursuit to serve them and the state of North Dakota. My professional and community experience helped me facilitate many discussions in the community in regards to issues that are priorities for those of us living in the District of 45 and the state of North Dakota. And I hope that the voters will see that as a young woman, as an American Indian, and as a lifelong student pursuing civic engagement for all people, encouraging civic engagement for all people, that we are all part of this process of democracy. So thanks for the time.
Thank you. This is the end of our introductory speeches. I want to say thank you to Jeremy for doing the TV work, and the TV will be on public access television for the next few days until the election next week. The first question is going to be for a candidate for Senate from District 45, Ron Sorvag. Ron Sorvag, do you think that spending cuts are necessary to limit the growth of government in North Dakota?
I think that we have to continue what Governor Hoeven and the Republican legislature has done, and that is focusing on providing the necessary services that we need, and obviously we all define that differently, for the state to function. And you know, do some programs need cutting and maybe looked at expanding or cutting? Yeah, some probably do. But I'm not going to name specific ones until I get an opportunity out there and give them a fair hearing, because I always approach everything with an open mind and wait for that opportunity. But I think the most important thing is, what is the taxation part of it, and how do we keep that controlled and in shape? And if we have to cut some programs to do that, okay. But otherwise, if we can do it without raising taxes, then we'll have to look at the programs that are there. Thank you.
Okay. Same question, Ed Gricella.
Thank you. I think it's easy to get wrapped up in the cutting mode, cutting taxes, less government that's going on now. However, when I'm going door to door, people are talking about that issue, and I tell them, let's just focus on North Dakota. If you don't listen to the national media, you would never. If you live in North Dakota, you don't. We're not participating in the recession. Well, we have a surplus in our budget, and I like the farm analogy. When a farmer gets a good crop, that's the time he goes out and invests in new equipment. He invests in maybe buys a new pickup. He does some things that are going to improve his life for the future. Or he invests in his education or some training for his children or something like that. So I think we're in that position now. We're not in a position where we need to cut budgets. We have a surplus, and I think we should invest it in the citizens of North Dakota and reinvest in our infrastructure at a time when we have the money available to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Same question, Joe Heilman.
Thanks for the question. I think it's an important one because, we're caught up in the national rhetoric of cutting things and that kind of a rhetoric. But the idea that North Dakota has been left really in a pretty substantial situation in terms of what we're comparing to nationally, I think we are in a unique situation in North Dakota to invest in areas that will really leverage those opportunities, particularly in education, higher education, and those kind of things. If there are areas where we need to cut in terms of wasteful spending and those kind of things, then definitely we need to look at those. But I think we're in a position where we don't have to necessarily look at those options.
Very good. Same question, Andrew Marshall.
I think at this time, we don't need to look at cutting our budgets, different programs. Even though the economy, we are affected somewhat here in Fargo and in North Dakota by what's going on out in the rest of the United States. I've worked for a couple of different companies, and we've had some slowdowns. So we have to be very careful as far as what we are spending our money on in Bismarck and what we are funding. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
I agree with what Representative Grichala said. I think we need to make more investments into our finest resources, which is our people. If elected, I want to work to pass legislation that will further the agenda of the constituents in my district and for the state of North Dakota, asking that question, how can we earn a decent living and how can we raise our children successfully? We need to definitely put in more funding for education programs that will alleviate some of the taxation on small businesses and renters and property owners in North Dakota, and really look at what our spending is. We've been blessed in North Dakota to have a budget surplus, and I think it's been said before, but we need to wisely manage our funds and invest properly into the people of North Dakota.
Thank you. Same question, Tom Webiger.
Well, I think North Dakotans are by nature savers and good stewards of their nickels, and I think that's been the history. I think what we have right now is a unique situation where other states are in difficult circumstances. North Dakota has been blessed with a surplus, in part due to the oil and the natural resource that we have. But it really gives us an opportunity to sort of jumpstart our economy, to jumpstart our people, and to invest in those people, in education, to also invest in infrastructure. I think we always look to see if there are programs that can be cut or whether they're needed. But I think right now we're at a place where we need to be investing in that future, and we need to find a way to jumpstart our economy, jumpstart our people by investing in those people. And doing that by using some of the surplus, it's the people's surplus, let's invest it in those people, and I think that's what we need to plan for.
Okay. Thank you. We'll start our next question with Ed Grichala. Ed Grichala, there is evidence that there will be an Arizona-type anti-immigration bill introduced in the 2011 North Dakota legislature. What is your stand? What are your opinions on this type of legislation?
I think Arizona made a mistake trying to change it. It's a federal law. It's common knowledge that we are governed by the federal government. We can't exceed the federal government's laws. After saying that, I'd also like to point out that the previous administration had the presidency, the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the Supreme Court, and the immigration law never got changed, it never got fixed. The present administration has the same layout now except for the Supreme Court, and there doesn't seem to be any answer to the immigration problem. So I think joining that suit or having our own statute against immigration is a waste of time and money, and I would oppose it.
Okay. Same question, Joe Heilman.
Thank you. I personally don't know all the issues regarding immigration problems that North Dakota is having. Generally, I feel that it should be illegal to be an illegal alien. However, and we should provide our people the opportunities to find routes to gain citizenship. I have no problem with that. But if they're here illegally, we should take action to make sure that they can either find a route to citizenship or they need to do what they need to do to leave. But the issue in North Dakota, I don't think, at this time, I haven't seen all the issues, so I don't know if pursuing it at this point is worth it or not. So.
Okay, same question, Andrew Marshall.
The immigration bill isn't something that's new. It's just been something that's been restated. It is existing policies, just that Arizona has strengthened it to come within line of federal guidelines. I do not agree with illegal immigrations. As far as North Dakota does have some illegal immigration standards, as most other states do. At this time, I still need to read the bill and determine what is being presented before I can make a final determination as far as whether or not we need it or not. Thank you.
Okay, same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
Wow, 1 minute to answer this. Arizona SB 1070 was met with a lot of uncomfortable frustration from communities of color within the state of Arizona. And in North Dakota, our largest community of color is American Indian populations, and then our second largest undocumented visitors coming into the state are Canadians. So when we look at illegal folks in the state of North Dakota, it's not a real issue. SB 1070 is an unfunded mandate that has deputized Arizona law enforcement that has taken away their responsibilities to protect and serve the communities of Arizona. It's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of political frustration. We can be caring a lot more about legislation that really directly benefits the lives of citizens of North Dakota rather than talking about a piece of legislation that's going to waste time completely. And I find it very racist. I mean, to be honest, it's a piece of legislation that we don't need in North Dakota.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Tom Thiebiger.
Well, thank you. I think the fact that this is being discussed illustrates the national problem and frustration with not having a national policy, and I think that's what you see where the Justice Department has come in, and they've sued, and they're in the middle of litigation, and I think it emphasizes the fact that we really do need a national policy, taking into consideration what Representative Grishella had said. What's the likelihood of that happening? Even with that being said, the idea of bringing a bill like this in North Dakota, to me, it seems like it's a solution looking for a problem. I'm a labor lawyer. I'm not hearing about this as any sort of major issue in our community. I agree with Prairie Rose Seminole. We have other issues that we should be focusing on. And so at this point, obviously I'd read the bill, look at it, but I'm likely to oppose it.
Okay, same question, Ron Sorvab.
Well, I'm going by the media that we have a real problem right now in North Dakota. But I would agree with Mr. Thiebiger. I'd be willing to look at the bill and see what it is and see what the effects. And we all know that the problem is the national isn't doing their job. There's no question that. And that being said, if we get a situation like Arizona and our citizens are being killed, then I would expect our governor to stand up for our people. And that's what happened down there. Was it the right way? I don't know. But it was a frustration because the federal government is not doing their job. And I think that's what's important for us to focus and make sure they do that, but always leaving open that we are responsible for protecting our citizens and our economy and everything else that's involved.
Okay. Thank you. You've all replied to this question, so we'll start with a new question. We're going to begin with Joe Heilman. A interim committee of the North Dakota Legislature recently recommended in a draft report that there be $85 million in new K through 12 spending for education in the coming biennium. Will you support this increase in spending for education in North Dakota?
Well, first of all, I'll preface my comments saying I have not read the bill or what the monies would go towards. I think that if we can make strategic investments in education at all levels, higher education, K through 12, I think that it would be wise of us to do so in North Dakota's current situation. Depending on where those areas are, I think if we can invest those areas into where the students are, I think that's a good approach. But like I said, I can't really say either way right now without reading what the report all entails. But my overall support is for education. I think that we need. There are areas we can improve, and whether or not that's funding, we'll look at those issues. So.
Okay. Same question, Andrew Marshall.
I'm on the same boat as Joe. I have not read the bill. I do not know what it entails. I am for education. I have a son in school, and his education, along with all the other kids, are very important to me. I'd have to read the bill, determine where the budget, where the money falls, and I believe that there are areas that we can go ahead and increase funding, but until I actually get a chance to read the bill, I cannot make a determination at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, I can. The interim committee of the North Dakota Legislature recently recommended that they draft a bill increasing the North Dakota spending in education for classes K through 12 by $85 million for the coming biennium. Do you support this proposed bill?
I could give you a short answer, but I'll preface it with this. I know District 45 is a beacon for education in the state of North Dakota, whether it's K through 12 funding or K through 12 schools or higher education. We're graduating the best and the brightest, and our graduates are the envy of schools and employers worldwide. Whether in kindergarten or college, I believe that the legislature has a duty to provide our students with the best educational possible. And for too long, teachers' pay in North Dakota has been amongst the lowest in the nation. I believe we rank least in the nation for teachers' pay. And long-term funding of K through 12 education at 70% has not been committed. So to answer the question, I believe I would support a bill investing in the promise of our future of North Dakota, and that's our students.
Thank you. Same question, Tom Fiebiger.
Well, thank you. The short answer for me is yes. These are the recommendations of North Dakota's Commission on Education Improvement. And of this $85 million, 30 million more will be on per pupil payments. It will include funding merit pay systems and expanding this extension service program for pre-kindergartners and their parents. And that funding for pre-kindergartners and their parents, it relates to early childhood education that we tried to get through last time, and we're just slow to get this done. It's been rejected on a bipartisan, it's been rejected on a party line. We tried to get it through as Democrats last time, couldn't get it through. Now I'm glad to see that we're getting these recommendations to help fund education. We have the resources to do that at this time. It means an increase in per student payments of $100 per student each year. North Dakota has in terms of historically been low in terms of its per pupil payments. This will help get us closer to where we should be. I'm all for continuing to help fund education and to move us where we can be a leader in the nation, and this helps get us there. So I think it's a good start. One other thing, it also fosters an alternative teacher compensation system so that they can figure out creative ways to pay teachers, which I think is also needed, and each district will be able to do that on their own. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay, very good. Same question, Ron Sauerbach.
Again, as some of the others said, I haven't read the specific bill. I'm a proponent of education. I think we have to fund it properly. I'm glad that we're at the 70% threshold, but to commit to a certain specific dollar amount with what I know at this time, I would never say yes, but I won't say no, because I'd want to look at the whole thing and how it affects the budget and where's the money coming from too, and what are the long-term ramifications, because obviously we can't just take reserve and fund things that are going to need funding for many, many years. So yeah, I would be more than willing to look at it, discuss it with an open mind, but I'm not going to say yes or no at this point because I don't have enough information.
Okay. Same question, Ed Gricella.
I would support the 85 million investment in North Dakota in our students. I think it's like I previously stated, we have a surplus now. We've had a good harvest, and we're having a continuing good harvest in the state. And it's time to reinvest some of that capital in our youth. That's the future of North Dakota. The education has always been underfunded, I feel, in this state. My wife is a teacher. I have a daughter-in-law who's in education. My daughter was a teacher for 3 years in Minnesota. And the differences between North Dakota and Minnesota basically is salary and benefits. And our teachers have been either 49th or 50th or always in the cellar nationwide for teacher pay. And I think that's a crime. This merit pay system that has just been proposed now with this report, I think it's a step in the right direction. And I noticed that they did put, I think, some money in there anyway to fund the management of that merit pay system. So I think it's a good start. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone's had an opportunity to respond to this question. We'll start with another question. Next Tuesday, the people of North Dakota will have a chance to vote on Measure 1, which also is known as funding the Legacy Fund. There are some people who are concerned that the funds, once set aside, cannot be touched without a two-thirds vote of both the House and the Senate. Would you like to comment on Measure 1 and the two-thirds rule? And we will start with Andrew Marshall.
I'm all in favor of setting aside funds for a rainy day. We don't know what will happen currently in Washington, D.C. There are groups that are trying to ban fracture oil drilling. We need to be prepared for all contingencies. We need to set aside money, and so therefore I am in favor of the Legacy Fund. As far as the two-thirds majority, I think it needs to be hard in order to spend the people's money. It should never be easy to spend the people's money, but there again, we need to have an access to it in case of emergencies. Thank you.
Okay, same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
I agree. I'm in favor of putting aside the funds for the Legacy Fund. My only question is looking at that two-thirds majority of spending it. I see this as an opportunity, but also a challenge with our current legislature, and wondering if that's going to hold up potential building of roads or flood protection needs or any other infrastructure needs across the state of North Dakota when we need it most.
Same question, Tom Fiebiger.
Well, you know, on first glance, this looks like something we should do, to set money aside as savers, but I think the question suggests part of the problem, which is getting two-thirds of my fellow legislators and I to agree on much of anything, and I think something like this with this significance and that would probably be looking at a large amount, I think would be extremely difficult to do. So I think one of the problems I have is that we are tying the hands of legislators to follow. And I don't like to do that. I think it limits what they can do. The other problem is that this money can't be taken out until 2017, so it's going to be there for a while. You talk about setting money aside. We have $686 million, according to the last estimate, in our permanent oil tax trust fund. We have another $325 million in our budget stabilization fund. We have a rainy day fund. We have money set aside. I think there are ways we can do this. We don't have to have a constitutional amendment. We can set the money aside. We're going to go to the federal government. We're going to say, help us with our flood protection issues. We want you to kick in. And in the meantime, we're going to be socking all this money aside, and I don't think that's going to send the right message. So I'm concerned about it. I think there are other ways to do it, and I don't think this is the best way to do it.
Okay. Thank you. Same question, Ron Sorvog.
I support it. It's taking a percentage of that money and it's putting it away for future generations. You know, we have to focus. All I hear is, let's spend it, let's spend it. Well, that's what the federal government's doing, and that's why they're in trouble. Instead, let's leave some of it to our children, our grandchildren, their children. And it can be kicked out. If it's an emergency, 2/3 of the legislature probably will do it. So there is a way to trigger it. But just to constantly have ideas to spend every dollar that comes in, I think is wrong. I think it's a very good policy. I think it's a fair policy. And I think it's a tremendous gift or legacy to the future generations, which all the other energy-producing states are doing in a reasonable way. So, yeah, I support it.
Same question, Ed Gruchella.
I supported the a bill similar to this last session. That I think took 75% of the vote to get it out. But yes, I do support putting some of the surplus away. It's a one-time harvest. We need to save some for when the oil wells stop pumping. However, I do think it's too restrictive also. I'm sure the bill is going to pass. There's no question about that. But getting 2/3 of the House and Senate to agree on something, you can't get them to agree on the time of day. So I think it is too restrictive, and but it's going to pass, and I will support. I support the concept, but I don't necessarily support the measure. Thank you.
Same question, Joe Heilman.
Thank you. I think that the idea of it is very good, and what was wrong, I think, with the last year or last election cycle's measure too, was that it was a certain amount every year. This is more of a formula-based 30% funding, and so that will, I think, in times of fluctuating oil revenues, I think that will help some of those issues. In terms of the 2/3 vote, I'm going to steal a line from Mr. Sorvog in that it shouldn't be easy to spend the taxpayer's dollar. And so when we're out in Bismarck, and if it's an emergency, I think that's the purpose of this fund, is that we are able to take it out if necessary. And I would like to think that hopefully my future colleagues in the legislature, if it's a time of need, will be able to do that. But maybe I'm naive in that fact. But the idea of the Measure 1 I support, because that's what I've been hearing door to door with my neighbors. So,
okay. Mr. Marshall, you did get a chance to answer this question, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. So we're going to start the next question with Prairie Rose Seminole. Should the Workforce Safety Agency cover the cost of treatment for mental health issues of people who are injured, especially the case in Gilby, North Dakota, where a bank teller was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress syndrome?
The short answer is yes. There's a lot of hardworking North Dakotans who cannot manage their pain or their mental health issues due to Workforce Safety Insurance Company wrongfully turning their back on those they're supposed to serve. A recent study has indicated that North Dakota has the lowest statutory benefits of all state, and that's another thing that I don't think we should be proud of in the state of North Dakota. When workers are getting injured on the job, whether it be a mental health issue or a physical issue, I believe the WSI should support our workers. It's estimated that WSI will be giving $60 million back to the employers of this state in this next year. And this is all good and well as long as our injured workers are taken care of. I don't think we should be last in the country when it comes to taking care of our employees with the state of North Dakota, and I believe that their mental health issues should be taken care of, especially in the case of the Gilby incident. That's trauma, and it should be taken care of.
Same question, Tom Thiebager.
Well, thank you. I agree that the workforce safety is there to help and compensate our injured workers. That's what it's for. This lawsuit that entailed, I think, focused on the issue of bodily injury, and there's some definitional problems, and I think that will be addressed in the next legislative session. I agree with if someone's sustains mental health damage such as this with PTSD or something like that, that should very well be a compensable injury, and I think that's going to get some play at the next legislative session.
Okay. Same question, Ron Sorvag.
In this case, it seems like it should something that definitely should be covered. I think it's like everything workman comp or workforce safety goes up and down, and maybe too much, too little coverage, but that's something you got to address and look at all the time. I mean, there is two sides of it. I write a check every month to WSI, and so it is a cost and it is an obligation and it is an insurance that the business are paying. But I think when I pay those premiums, I want to make sure that there is coverage for my employees if they need it. So I'd be willing to look at that. And this definitely is kind of a unique situation, but it appears, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but that this is related to the incident and maybe is something in the law that needs to be tweaked to deal with something like that.
Same question, Ed Rucella.
Yes, I also agree that this was an egregious case for a mental case here. She was held down at gunpoint, and she can't go back to work because she's afraid to go back into the workforce. It's just too bad. It's unfortunate that there wasn't some sort of a trigger mechanism in workforce safety, so this could have been addressed at the time of her case came. But the law was clear. It said workforce safety does not have to cover mental health issues. So yes, this should have been covered, and I know there is a bill coming to address this situation. Thank you.
Okay. Same question, Joe Heilman.
Yeah, without beating a dead horse, I will agree with previous speakers in that I think in this particular instance, there's overwhelming evidence that it probably should be supported. I don't know all the details of the case, and nor am I an expert on WSI issues, so I will just kind of leave it there in saying that I think that legitimate claims should be honored, and I think if you're put under so much stress in the workplace that this instance would cause her to not be able to work in a productive way from an incident like that, I think that it probably should be covered. So.
Same question, Andrew Marshall.
I agree along with everybody else that if a person is injured on a job, whether it's physically, mentally, they should be covered by WSI. I think this has already been discussed enough. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll start with a new question with Tom Fieberger. There's two parts to this question. One is North Dakota is at the bottom of the list in terms of providing health insurance for our state's children in low-income families. Also, the Ann and Casey Foundation's Kids Count reported that North Dakota's children in poverty increased by more than 2,300 children compared with the number in 2008. 15% of the children lived in homes where there were incomes below the poverty level. With kids in poverty increasing and with kids not receiving adequate health insurance, do you feel that the North Dakota legislature in its next session can address this problem?
Well, I think it's a problem that we have to address. We talk about children and families as being of utmost importance. I think actions speak louder than words. Last time around, in the legislative session, we were able to increase the children's health insurance program to 160% from 150%. The Republican governor wanted it at 200%, but we couldn't get the Republican legislature up over 160%. I think that's not a good thing. I think children suffer because of that. I think we should be at 200%, perhaps higher. Iowa's at 300. Other states are in that range. This is how we keep our kids healthy. This is how we give them an opportunity to succeed. I think that's a good starting point. Last session, there was a vote in the Senate, and it tied 23-23. We couldn't get it passed on party lines. So yes, I think that's a good start to increase the children's health insurance program. There are other things we can do, but that's a really good start.
Same question, Ron Sorbach.
Would you repeat the first part of it? I didn't quite, there was two parts, and if you could repeat the...
Okay. The first part of the question indicated that the Ann and Kasich Foundation's Kids Count reported that there is an increase in children living in poverty in North Dakota. And the second part of the question had to do with the fact that we are not funding the children's insurance for children in poverty at a sufficient rate.
Okay, thank you. Well, in the first part of it, you know, we've got a booming state. We're doing a lot of things, and the answer to how do you get people out of poverty is we support the private sector, and we develop jobs, and we develop opportunities. That's the best way. Over programs or giving them money, we have to do that. Coming to the child health, yeah, we got an obligation to help our children in this state, but we got to do it in a reasonable and affordable way. You know, whether it's 150, 200, you know, I really can't talk specifically on those numbers at this point because I don't know the fine details of it, but I'd be open-minded and looking because, yeah, our children are our future. Just like we have a legacy fund, everything else, they're our future, and we've got to make sure we're supporting them. Thank you.
Same question, Ed Gricella.
The governor's budget, Governor Hovind's budget last time did call for going to 200% of the federal poverty level, and we could only squeeze a 10% increase out of our legislature to 160. Now, the 200% would have only put us somewhere still in the bottom of the range for the country. So it's a shame that with a budget like we had last time, or a budget surplus, we could only raise the poverty level up by 10%, 10 points. So yes, I think it's a crying shame that we don't support the program at least at the 200% level. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Joe Heilman.
Thank you. I don't know the intricacies of what happened in the last session. This issue actually kind of begs a question in my mind as to why is levels of poverty in North Dakota increasing in those age groups, and that for me raises concern in that we're boasting that we're the best economy in the nation and most jobs and those kind of things, and yet we still have this problem. So I would be very interested in looking into the underlying causes of why are these people in these situations, and so if any of you have any ideas for me afterwards, I'd be happy to listen. But in terms of, I think the government has a responsibility to take care of those who can't take care of themselves, and children definitely fall into that issue. So I'd be very open-minded in looking into solutions that help these problems. So,
okay. Same question, Andrew Marshall.
I'm in the same boat. I need to know more about it. It does concern me. North Dakota is one of the premier states in the union. With the poverty level increasing, that concerns me. I'd like to know more about that. Where is it coming from? What is causing this problem? Our kids are our number one priority. We need to take care of our kids. We need to look at different ways of funding this program. Need to know what happened in the last session, why didn't we do this, and I need more information about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
I agree that we should be spending, making more investments into our children's health funds. We have a growing number of families in District 45 in the city of Fargo and in the state of North Dakota who have an issue of parents being underemployed. That means parents working 1, 2, or 3 jobs that have little or no benefits to them. And so you're looking at working poor in the state of North Dakota where people are working their hardest to provide a quality of life for their children that they're just not making ends meet. And so we need to have that little investment to make sure that our parents can afford that quality of life. And then I'd also like to see just investment in programs that have proven impact on children and families and their quality of life, like Head Start. I mean, the state has a great program like Head Start, and we're the only maybe one or two states in the nation that do not provide state funding for programs like that to definitely get low-income families back on their feet and provide a really great start for their children.
Thank you. Now, I believe you've answered the question, Tom Figberger, so we're going to start the next question with Ron Sorvog. We have heard a lot about an increase in work in North Dakota in the oil fields and the service industries that are working with the oil field workers. However, we haven't heard much about proposals to increase the growth of businesses and other employment opportunities in North Dakota. If you are elected to the North Dakota legislature, what kind of legislation would you introduce or support to increase business opportunities in North Dakota?
Well, you know, there's a fine line on how much the public entities should be investing, but the way we invest, encourage, and bring businesses is through tax incentives, and that's the main thing we'd have to look at. We've done a lot of those, and make sure they're appropriate and that we get a return on it. But it's a competitive world out there, and there's a lot of other states, a lot of other communities competing for the good jobs and the good companies, and we need to just keep doing that. The oil field's taking care of itself, part of it, but part of it still needs investment and involvement. But mainly is you make a business-friendly environment, and that's done through a business-friendly tax world, and that's what will grow. And then we keep things like the high-tech park up there at NDSU, or the great things that's done for District 45 in North Fargo. Our business is right up there 2 blocks away, and it's brought life up there. It really is great to see. But it has to come through the private sector with encouragement and support by the state government and the federal government, and right now we're not getting that at the federal level, so the state needs to work on that.
Same question, Ed Gruchella.
North Dakota is in a unique position to actually take us to the next level. We have our energy industry is burgeoning in the West with the oil and coal. However, we also have the technology at NDSU and UND at the EERC that is developing all types of new energy resources. Ethanol and biodiesel and the work they're doing in hydrogen and the fuel cells, that's the future of not only North Dakota, but that's the future of the country. We now have, with the millions of dollars that have been brought in by our Senator Dorgan and Senator Conrad and Representative Earl Pomeroy into the tech park and into the EERC to do this research and development, we're in a position now to take advantage of that, and I think that's where the future of North Dakota is going to come from. Eventually, we're going to run out of oil and coal, or it'll be deemed too dirty to use. So we need to develop these new sources of green energy and move into the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Joe Heilman.
This is really one of the benefits that having a diverse economy like North Dakota has. With oil and gas, we can reinvest some of those resources that we gain from oil and gas and put them into things like centers of excellence. And I actually work in one of the companies in the tech park at NDSU, and I'm seeing it there every day. There's a lot we can do with partnerships with our research institutions, and not just the research institutions, UND, NDSU, but with our two-year colleges, NDSCS and Williston State College and those kind of things, where we can provide opportunities to reinvest those resources and create new business opportunities with those. And I see that every day, and that's what we're doing, and I really enjoy having the opportunity to see it every day because we're really making a difference. So.
Okay, same question, Andrew Marshall.
With what's going on out in western North Dakota, we need to get with state and local governments to provide incentives to businesses to come into the area. The housing development that needs to go on out there, as well as other services, it needs to kind of a grassroots area. We need to get in there and give the people an incentive to come out there and develop these companies and provide the services that our people out in western North Dakota need.
Okay, very good. Same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
Could you repeat the question again?
Is there any type of legislation that you would introduce that would improve the business climate or encourage business growth in North Dakota?
I kind of have to agree along the lines with what Representative Grishala was talking about in the green energy area. Technology is being developed here at NDSU and along the research corridor, which is really allowing North Dakota to be a resource and a beacon, a leader for alternative energy sources, which would eventually decrease our dependency on fossil fuels, but then create jobs and keep our graduates in the state of North Dakota. We're graduating the best and the brightest in the fields of technology and engineering, and allowing our technology graduates to stay here in the state of North Dakota will kind of beat two birds with one stone. We'll create jobs and we'll keep our graduates from going out east.
Okay. Same question, Tom Fiebiger.
Well, I'm going to be the broken record when you get to go last. I'm going to echo what Representative Grishala and Prairie Rose Seminole have stated. You know, North Dakota, in the legislature, we've created many tax incentives for businesses already. There are a lot of them out there. You talk about tax-friendly states. North Dakota ranks 33rd in corporate tax rate. So there really are a lot of incentives already. I think we have to position ourselves for the future. Part of that includes setting up job opportunities for young people to keep them here so that we don't lose them to the Chicagos and the Minneapolis and the other things. And those call for some creative ways of legislating. And so I would support things like that that help create and help keep the best and the brightest here, which includes student loan forgiveness, other types of things to be creative rather than just to tell our young people, we really want you to stay. So I think we are doing a lot of good things now. There's been a lot of creativity in the wind energy area. We're #1 in the country in the potential, so I think we need to develop that and continue to develop it.
Thank you. Going off on a different course, we'll start with Ed Gricella. There's been a lot in the news lately about bullying, about harassment of young people. Do you think there's anything that can be done on the state level, such as an anti-bullying law, in addressing the problem? Thank you.
I think somebody planted this question for me. No, I'm just kidding. I got involved in this issue accidentally about a month ago, going door to door. A lady, I asked her if she had any concerns like I normally do, and she indicated that she had a son who was being bullied and was contemplating suicide and maybe had made one attempt. He was in the public education system. And I've been involved. By the way, the boy who's having the problem has some intellectual disabilities. So I've been involved with Special Olympics for about 30 years, and so I'm kind of sympathetic to that type of child. Anyway, one thing led to another, and it is, after doing some research and getting involved in one of the radio shows, there is a lack of an anti-bullying legislation in this state. We're one of the few states that does not have that. And so I do have a bill that's drawn up now, and there are several other people that are working on a bill also to try to do something about this issue. It's a complicated issue, but I think by passing a law and at least making or forcing the schools to have anti-bullying policy is a start or a step in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you. Same question, Joe Heilman.
I think it's certainly a big issue that we need to address. I will agree with Representative Grichala in that I think there's steps we need to take, and I'm very open to looking at them. I was a victim, not necessarily a victim, but in some cases a witness to bullying in high school and at the grade school level back in my hometown, and it's damaging to even people who weren't necessarily victims, but also those who had to watch it and didn't have the tools to step in and do something. The issue is, well, I guess I would just support looking into these issues, and it's definitely something we need to take steps. How do you enforce it? That's what I want to ask more questions about. So more of an educational way than a reprimand.
Okay, thank you. Same question, Andrew Marshall.
With a son in high school right now, I'm very concerned with the bullying issues. It's been in the news, bullying issues, and schools currently do have anti-bullying policies in place. I would need to get up with the school administrators and find out, are the policies working? If they're not working, why aren't they working? How do we go ahead and strengthen these to get them working? At this time, I am very open to the possibility of legislation, but I need to get up with the school administrators and see if there is a problem there and try to fix the problem at the lowest possible level prior to elevating it to a state level.
Thank you. Same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
This is an issue that we've dealt with in the Fargo Public School systems. It's come to our attention when I served with the Human Relations Commission of Fargo, and we work with local school boards and teachers and parents to address the situation at a local level. But what I really would like to see is, at the state level, is legislation that will not only complement the efforts, but put some resources into anti-bully legislation so that the schools have the tools, the teachers have the tools, and the parents have the tools to address bullying at the local level in a more comprehensive manner.
Same question, Tom Spieberger.
Well, I agree that something needs to be done. Bullying has been around since any of us went to school, but you have different issues today, especially with cyberbullying and other things. That there are different ways that it can be done. I think the real catch is how do you do it right? How do you find a balance? One of the struggles I have is apparently there's federal privacy laws that prevents or limits what the schools can actually tell the parents of the bullied child about the remedy. And to me, that doesn't seem to be right. As a parent of a child, you want to know how this was handled. And I think those are some things that maybe even on the federal level can be handled. But we need to educate. We need to figure out a way to put resources. I think we need to study what's worked in other states, and then we need to put something in place that works. And that's the real key. How do we make sure it works? The education, funding it sufficiently. Minnesota, I think, has a fairly decent law that's been used. We can maybe look at that as something to work off of. But this is going to be around. It's going to continue to be around, and it's up to us to try and figure out ways to help our children and help those that have to deal with them.
Same question, Ron Sorvag.
Well, I'm going to agree with Mr. Fieberger on pretty much all he said on that, because I think it's something we can look at. But I think the important thing, and I've served on the Park Commission for years, and we don't do a lot, but we do rules and ordinances. And the important thing about them is, if you're going to pass them, make sure they're workable, they're real, and they can really be enforced and worked. And I think that's what's important if you're going to look at a bill like this. We got to make sure we bring the players, whether it's the school administrators, the teachers, whoever wants to and make sure it's something that can really be applied and used and worked and effective in the real world. Otherwise, we're going to pass a bill and say we solved the problem, and there's still going to be bullying out there. And we can't get rid of it all. But let's look at it and make sure that we've got all the right input coming from all the appropriate sides. Thank you.
Thank you. It's the end of this question. The next question, we'll start with Joe Heilman. Head Start is proven effective as a national investment in the lifelong education and support of 3- and 4-year-old children. Yet only 60% of the eligible children are in Head Start in North Dakota because of a lack of funding. North Dakota is one of 9 states that invest in the Head Start program. Would you support investing state money for Head Start to increase the number of children who are attending Head Start?
Can I just ask clarification on the question? Did you say it's one of 9 that does not support it or does support?
It says North Dakota is one of 9 states that invest in the Head Start program.
Okay.
Okay, apparently the writer said does not invest in the Head Start program.
I came from a small community in Rugby where Head Start program was, and I saw the impact it had on the community. I think it was positive. I don't know all of the issues in terms of investing in these issues, into these facilities. I think it's a good program. It's a worthy cause. If it all plays out in the budget and those kind of things, I'm totally willing to have a very open mind in looking at those issues. And that's really all I can say without knowing what the requests would be in terms of funding and what the impacts would be on the state coffers. So.
Okay. Same question, Andrew Marshall.
As a son in North Carolina, I had a son that was in Head Start program, and it worked out very well for me being in the military and helping out my son. He had some learning disabilities, and he was helped out quite well. I'm all in favor of Head Start. It's a very good program, but without knowing what their requirements are, without seeing their requests, I am favorable to the idea, and just need to look at what are their requests, what are they hoping to get from the state, what has been done in the past, and we can look forward from there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Same question, Prairie Rose Seminole.
I made a statement earlier that I am supportive of investing in a program like Head Start because it is a proven impact on the quality of life of children and families and young parents who are starting a family at a young age. And the investment, the return on the investment is there. You get $9 for every $1 invested into a Head Start program. And being one of 9 states that doesn't provide state funding into that program, I believe we can do better for the children of the state of North Dakota and for our families who are working their hardest to try to make ends meet and provide the best quality of life for their children. We can make that investment.
Same question, Tom Thiebiger.
Well, I would agree with Prairie Rose Seminole's assessment. Last session, again, we had a tie vote on this along party lines. We couldn't get our Republican colleagues to go along with funding this. To me, we need to be investing in our children. This is a positive investment that we see long-term returns on. And, you know, in Fargo, as I understand it, the Head Start program is designed to be for 3- and 4-year-olds, but they have so many children in the program and on the waiting list, I think there are hundreds on the waiting list, that they don't even take 3-year-olds in Fargo. And to me, you know, that's part of why it's set up for 3- and 4-year-olds. And we need to make this available, and we can figure out a way to do that, and I think it's a priority.
Same question, Ron Sorvag.
Well, on this one, you know, I don't know the details. I don't know why we haven't funded it or what the rationale behind it. I understand the basics of the program. I know it does a lot of good things, but I wouldn't at this point say yes or no, because I'd have to see the implications, the long-term ramifications that we get involved in funding it and what it would do budget-wise. But I would definitely approach it with an open mind and listen to all sides of it. Thank you.
Same question, Ed Gricella.
Thank you. Normally, from what I've seen over the years, North Dakota waits until we're about the 49th or 50th state to adopt something. And this is a place now where we don't have to be last. We could be like almost, you know, 9th or 10th to do it. So I think it's a good investment. I know the director of the Head Start program here. It pays dividends. These are kids that aren't getting what they need at home. And if they need special help, they get it in this program. And we talk about investing our surplus and investing in North Dakota. What better way is there to invest some of that surplus than to put it into the kids that really need the help?
Okay. Thank you. Now we're drawing to an end, and it's time for a 2-minute summary statement. And we're going to begin with Andrew Marshall, candidate for House of Representatives for North Dakota in District 45. Andrew Marshall.
You know, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this event. I bring a unique perspective to the legislators. For 23 years, I was proud to serve my state and my country as a member of the United States military. Then, after serving my country, I came back to District 45 to raise my son and buy a small business. I will work nonstop to protect our oil, gas, and coal industries from those who would work to shut them down. As a small businessman, it is important that our state have strong pro-business and pro-growth policies and continue to cut property taxes. I am proud to have been endorsed by Governor Hoeven. I would be honored to receive your vote. I will be the voice of the veteran, the National Guard, men and women, and small businesses in the legislature. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 2-minute summary statement from Prairie Rose Seminole, candidate for House of Representatives in District 45.
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight, and to our community participants who've given us some phenomenal questions for us to answer. District 45 is filled with good, hardworking individuals who deserve the type of representation that puts their lives first. I've been a community organizer, I've been an activist, I'm a nonprofit manager, and I'm a volunteer. I've lived a life of service for the past 15 years and want to continue to serve the District 45 voters and constituents and the state of North Dakota. As a first-time candidate, I ask that the voters support my call to serve, and if elected, I intend to push legislation that will invest in North Dakota's finest asset, the people. Running for the legislature allows me to do more for the people of my district and my state. In North Dakota, politics is not so much political as personal, and my background as a young professional, a Native American, and a longtime public servant will bring a much-needed perspective to the decision-making table of our state government. I want to work to pass legislation that will further the major agenda of my constituents and the people of North Dakota, which is how can we earn a decent living and how can we raise our children successfully. My work has involved bringing people together, appreciating differing perspectives, and understanding the legislative process. I've researched the nuances of hot button issues, and I've communicated the concerns of ordinary citizens to our state legislature as well as our members of Congress. I found that government works best when we as stakeholders sit down and discuss our shared challenges and our unique opportunities. My professional and community experience helps me facilitate that discussion better. By working together, we can pass meaningful legislation that addresses the needs of all North Dakotans. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Tom Fiebiger, candidate for North Dakota Senate from District 45. It is time for your 2-minute summary statement.
Well, thank you. I've worked hard to try and be a thoughtful and effective voice for the people in our district and the people in our state. I'm passionate about continuing to work for the people of District 45 and all of the people in North Dakota to secure a future of hope and opportunity. And this is a great time for vision and planning for the long-term future of this great state. I'll work hard to help create and secure that future, including permanent flood protection funding, property tax relief, and education. It also means the development of smart business and energy development to compete globally. I'll continue to stand up for children and hardworking men and women. We need to think long-term. What do we want our state to look like? Leadership is about helping set a vision and then working to make that vision happen. North Dakota's natural resources have helped create an economy that's weathered the national recession and resulted in this unprecedented surplus. We need bold and responsible leadership to ensure that the revenues from this one-time harvest is used to permanently improve North Dakota for our current residents and for generations to come. We can do this together, and we can do it by making property tax relief permanent, providing fair and effective oil impact funding, addressing the oil boom impact by helping fund safe roads, housing, and sensible development, strengthening our infrastructure for the Fargo flood control, Devil's Lake solutions, improving bridges and water systems. We can and must invest in our next generation. We can fund programs that ensure our children are healthy, well cared for, educated, and prepared for the future. And they may know that higher education and job skill training is within their grasp, rich or poor, if they aspire to it. Thank you for your continued trust and confidence, and I ask for your vote on November 2nd.
Ronald Sorvog.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters. I appreciate this evening, and I appreciate the questions. I've served on the Fargo Park Commission for quite a few years, and I did get endorsed by all 4 park commissioners for the idea that I am a watchdog of the budget. Knowing the budgets and learning them and being very careful with the public's money is what's important to me. Or as Joe used my line that I always use, and I've used it for years, it should never be easy to spend the taxpayers' dollars. What does that mean? That means you justify everything you spend, you're accountable, and it makes sense. And I think there is a difference. My answer isn't to spend this money on everything. All I've heard is, let's spend it, let's spend it. It's a one-time harvest, then let's save some of it so the other generations can enjoy it. Now, obviously, there's infrastructure that we can do. That makes sense to spend it on. But we can't commit to long-term programming that's not going to have funding down the road once this runs out, unless we save it, invest it, and really put it away for our families and our children. And with that, thank you, and please vote Sorvog on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ed Gricella, candidate for House of Representatives, the state of North Dakota in District 45. Your 2-minute summary statement.
Thank you, and thanks to the League of Women Voters also. My life has been one of public service. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was in the State Patrol, retired after 25 years, and now I'm in the House of Representatives. And I think I bring a unique perspective to the House of Representatives. Many times I'm the lone voice or the lone tree in the forest when it comes to some of the traffic safety issues. Once in a while, some people vote with me. Once in a while, one passes. But I still think North Dakota is a great place to live. It's a safe place to live, and I think we have to make it that way. One of the reasons this is a great state is we've had great teachers in this state over the years. We produce a good product. Our kids get out of school with good educations, and we need to continue that. We also have good public employees in our state, including the state troopers that work the roads, and we need to support them. We now have a crisis in our retirement funds. That's public employees and TFFR, the Teachers Fund for Retirement, that need to be addressed. Those funds took a big dive, and through no fault of the public employees or the teachers, they're in dire straits. They're going to be asked to kick in some money to and work longer to make these funds balance out. It'd be my position that the state can also put some money in these funds and balance them out. My family lives here. All my kids live here, my grandkids, and I want this to be a good place for them to grow up. NDSU is a gem, I think, in District 45 or in the state of North Dakota. It's had some problems in the past, but I think we're on the right track. We're making the right connection with the other legislators that we know, and Tom and I have met with them and with NDSU several times and trying to get restore some of the image that the great institution North Dakota has had over the years. So thanks again for being here, you in the audience, and thank you to the League of Women Voters.
Thank you. Joe Heilman, candidate for the North Dakota House of Representatives from District 45. It's time for your 2-minute summary statement.
I join in thanking the League of Women Voters for their support in this evening's forum, and I want to thank you all for being here for an hour and 10 minutes listening to us ramble on. I think you'll find that a lot of us agree on the issues, and that's because we're all in our district. We're banging on the doors, and we're hearing what our neighbors have to say. And I think we need to look at some of the differences, and I think some of those will be that if you elect folks like myself or Marshall or Sorvag, we will be at the majority table in Bismarck, and I think we're all naive if we don't think that makes a difference in Bismarck, and that will be key in issues like flood protection, education funding, and things like that. With myself, District 45 will gain a very strong voice for NDSU, which is something that is very near and dear to my heart as having served as the student body president there. And I know the issues affecting students, which are the most important part of any university. And I believe deeply in our state and our community here. And North Dakota is really the envy of the nation, and we need to capitalize on that opportunity. And I thank Governor Hoeven for his endorsement, as well as Brian Kalk and many, many others who have endorsed my candidacy. And I appreciate the opportunity to have this experience with the people of my district. And so I ask for your vote as the state representative in District 45. I think Representative Gricella was telling me that the average age in the House of Representatives is quite high, and I'd like to bring that down a little bit just so we can not forget some of the good people in North Dakota that are really here to invest in our future. So thank you very much.
I'm one of the other ones.
Want to say thank you to the candidates for the North Dakota House of Representatives and Senate from District 45 for being here this evening. Want to thank you for the audience. I want to thank you for your very good questions. I'm sorry we couldn't use them all. Maybe we'll use them in one of the later sessions. Want to thank the timekeeper. Want to thank the person in charge of the television. I want to thank Patty Kratke, Frank Kratke, the other members of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley for helping with this session. Thank you. Thank you to the audience for attending the League of Women Voters Candidates meeting. We have just finished with the candidates from District 45. We're going to begin with the candidates for District 41 for the North Dakota House of Representatives and North Dakota. And we are going to start with our first candidate with a 2-minute introductory statement, and it's going to be Al Carlson, District 41 House.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for inviting us here. It's always good to meet with the public and to let them have an opportunity to address issues. The good Lord said you were given 2 ears and 1 mouth, and most times politicians can't get that in the right formula, but we should be here to listen. Before we go any further, I just want to take and give a thank you to someone who, our district chairman, and all of us are up here because our district chairmen work hard, they get us elected, they work for us, and they do everything they can to help us get our job done. And our chairman passed away last week at 56 from lung cancer, and he is greatly going to be missed because we're here because of the work that's done by those people, and I really want to tell you how much we as candidates appreciate that. I've been in Fargo since 1969 when I was finishing up at NDSU with a teaching degree. I taught at Agassiz Junior High for 6 years, and for the last 30 years I've been a contractor in Fargo. We've built over 400 homes and apartment buildings and office buildings and condominiums in this city. We have helped, we believe, build a very big part of the tax base that this city has. North Dakota is doing well. It's doing well. We have the U.S. Chamber ranked us #1 in the nation in economic growth over the last decade. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the nation. Our personal growth was #1 in the nation 2 years ago, and the list goes on. And this doesn't happen by luck or by fate. It happens by good public policy. I've had the privilege of serving District 41 for the last 18 years. And in those 18 years, we've watched North Dakota grow. And we've grown because of good policies that allow businesses to flourish. Businesses are the heartbeat of what makes North Dakota grow. And we have tried in our best to establish policies that do that. Over those years, I've also had the privilege of serving on many different committees, finance and tax, and industry, business, and labor, and transportation. And last session, I had the honor of being elected the majority leader in the House. So when we go to Bismarck, we not only in the people of District 41 have representatives that have a seat at the table, we are having the major input of what's being passed at that table. So we think we bring a very pro-business, pro-growth agenda to the state, and I look forward to the opportunity to answer your questions and again to serve the state of North Dakota.
Thank you. Betty Grandy, candidate for the North Dakota House of Representatives from District 41. It is time for your 2-minute introductory speech.
Thank you. And it's just a pleasure to be here. It's a privilege to be in front of you today to answer questions that you may have for us. And just thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. It is a privilege, and I call it an honor, to be a person who is able to serve in the Southwest Fargo neighborhoods as the state representative. I've had that privilege for 14 years. In my tenure as a legislator, I have served on the Education Committee, the Judiciary Committees, the Finance and Tax Committees, the Political Subdivisions, and I am currently the chair of Government and Veterans Affairs. Over the past sessions, I have worked on income tax and corporate tax reductions, homestead tax exemptions for the veterans, the disabled, and the elderly. While serving in GVA, I have worked with the North Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs, the County Veterans Service Officers, and our National Guard to assure that good policy, education for the County Veterans Service Officers, and funding so that they can best serve our veterans. I have also sponsored legislation that was put forth in an expedited fashion a couple sessions ago to protect the families of our fallen soldiers. This is to protect them from the people that wish to protest at their funerals. It was an honor to work with these families into ensuring them that they would not have to worry about protesters in view of their funerals. I was able to help bring Teen Challenge to North Dakota, With this program that is now accepted across all lines, promoted now by the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations because of its low recidivism rates, this is a life-changing program, and it's benefiting the state. It's been a pleasure to serve the citizens of this great state. Thank you.
Thank you. Ty Hegland, do I have that correct?
Yes,
Pronounced
ma'am.
correctly? Candidate for the North Dakota House of Representatives from District 41. Time for your 2-minute introductory speech.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum tonight. For those of you that know me and for those of you that don't, my name is Ty Hagelin, and I am running for the House in District 41. My background is as North Dakotan as they come. I grew up on a family farm in rural North Dakota. I attended NDSU for college, went to grad school at Morehead State, and from there I went to work here in the Fargo area, investing my labor and my skills in the nonprofit sector. First, I ran a domestic violence center, and now I lead a senior services organization that operates in the 3-state area. In both of these capacities, I've been able to serve individuals in need, thousands of individuals, while also working on a systemic level to bring about meaningful change to our community. I've always told people that my work ethic has come from that family farm, but my sense of service has come from this community. It is this sense of service that I want to put to work for you and the residents of District 41 on the issues that matter most, like securing flood protection, long-term property tax relief, and also improving the investments in our kids. Every day for the last 4 months, I have been out in our community, creating meaningful dialogue with the residents of our district. Through these conversations, our residents have been able to understand my values, my work ethic, and my vision for the road ahead. They know that I will work tirelessly to develop comprehensive solutions to the issues that they face, and that I would never do such things like vote against disadvantaged kids or common sense solutions. Yes, the residents of District 41 have got to see my sense of service, and it is this sense of service that I'll put to work for them in the North Dakota House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to take questions from the audience, and we're going to start with questions with Betty Grandy. And there'll be 1 minute to answer each one of the questions. You'll watch the timer, Jan Jackson. Okay, there was a recent polling place controversy in Benson County. Senator Casper has said he will introduce a bill to require a polling site in all towns over 200 people. Would you support this legislation? Betty Grandy.
Well, Representative Casper is the one who is proposing that. Representative Casper serves on the Government and Veterans Affairs Committee with me. We have looked at various changes with the polling sites and with trying to make voting as easy as possible in the state of North Dakota. And as you know, we have had early voting going on all this week and absentee balloting for nearly the whole month. And with that, I agree with Representative Casper. I don't like the fact that we don't have polling sites open, and you know, the other thing that is difficult is that we've moved we have counties that have chosen to move to all mail-in ballots, and I think we need to readdress that with some of those counties because it's taking away the opportunity to go to a polling site and cast your ballot. Having gone to Iraq and watched and supervised in with the election cycle there to watch the people cast that ballot and how important it is to physically cast that ballot, it just makes it all worth it to have that opportunity for everyone. So, thank you.
Same question, Ty Hegland.
No, well, thank you for the question. I would wholly support improving voter turnout and access here in North Dakota. I believe that the actions in Benson County were wrong. I would like to see legislation move forward that would improve both, but also in a very cost-effective manner. Thank you.
Same question, Al Carlson.
Well, I'm not sure that 200 is the right number for a town. I don't know that, but I can tell you one thing, that when you have 23 counties voting by mail, and that Grandma has gone down to the local school for the last 60 years of her life and voted, only to find out that the polling place that she was going to vote at is closed, and she has to drive 40 miles to the county seat to vote, is not right. We tried to adjust some of those last time and didn't get that done. But let me tell you, we need to, last election we had about a 53% voter turnout. We should be having 60 or 70% voter turnout, because that's what the process is all about. So I'm hoping that we make this not only more accessible, but we make sure that we don't disenfranchise voters along the way. Whether 200 is the right number or not, but I guarantee you these voting issues will be on the docket for the legislature.
The next question, we'll start with Ty Hegland. The North Dakota Commission for Education Improvement recommended a $85 million increase for education spending for the next legislative session. Lieutenant Governor Dalrymple chairs this committee. Would you support this recommendation?
Well, first off, let me start by saying that I have a 4-year-old daughter who will be entering the public education system here in North Dakota. Nothing is more important than our kids' education. It took almost 30 years for us to get to 70% of public education funding. And it's been, and just that it took 30 years, it touches on the climate of North Dakota, basically towards our kids' education. I'd like to see us improve that, and specifically in that $85 million, I'd like to see that as just a starting block. If anybody has followed education reform throughout the U.S., if you take a look at the Newark education system, here they just invested $100 million towards improving those systems. And they're not just moving towards getting to a minimum standard, they're moving towards excellence. And that is what I would like to see in North Dakota.
Same question, Al Carlson.
Well, thank you. It's quite simple if you study education across the United States and in North Dakota that spending more money doesn't necessarily guarantee better results. It's how you spend that money and how that money is put into the programs that these kids are taught. The $85 million will be part of a package we look at to fund lots of different things. K-12 will be one. Higher education wants $120 million more. They want another $100 and some million for infrastructure development. The FMAP, which we have in Medicare, is going to require $188 million more just to stay even with the services we're offering our seniors. So we need to balance the budget. Is it good to try and keep increasing public spending on education? Every biennium I've been there, we have, whether we had a lot of money or not, we have increased our commitment towards education. 70%, by the way, is nowhere in statute. It was a committee discussion years ago, and that number stuck. And is 70 right? Is 80 right? Is 50 right? I'm not sure what is right, but the state has committed over the years to increase its contribution to public education because we believe that that is the backbone of what happens. Not only K-12, but higher education as well.
Thank you. Same question, Betty Grandy.
Well, thank you. I was looking at that report also, and I think that one of the things that's important is to know exactly which programs would be getting that funding, and with that, what is the success rate in those programs. This money is the money that really needs to get back to the local school districts. The school districts are the ones that should be making those determinations, not the state. And as long as we're talking about the 70% funding, Representative Carlson correctly points out that this is not a mandate by statute, and the next question that came up repeatedly is 70% of what? And when we say education, which parts of the education, what's mandated in statute, what's mandated or decided by a school district of each of the school districts, and what's all included in that funding. And so I think we really need to see the big picture before we start putting out percentages like that. I think that we've always done a great job since the Republicans took the leadership with education funding. There were times when there would be guarantees of dollars to the state, from the state, and second biennium the money would be pulled back because it wasn't there. And we've done a good job of keeping that money in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will begin the next question with Representative Al Carlson. What is they're on our ballot, not only will we be voting for candidates, we'll be also voting for measures. What is your opinion of Measure 2?
Measure 2 is the issue that deals with the enclosed hunting areas, I believe. And that particular ballot measure, if you really get down to it, is a matter of property rights. If, in fact, someone has a 1,000-acre operation in western North Dakota, and he has a high fence operation, and he's selling hunts for deer, and someone is coming in and paying for that, and he's followed all the state regulations, he's tagged the deer are properly ear tagged, they have to be disposed of if there's any problems, and if someone wants to come in and pay that fee and shoot that deer, then I'm not so sure that it's our right as the state to tell him he can't do it and we're going to put him out of business. It was mentioned today that 2 or 3 of the different outfits, and there's only about 8 of them in the state that offer this. Some of them are offering these Make-A-Wish hunts and those type of things for people who are dying or who are very sick or whatever it happens to be, and they've given an opportunity to shoot something that they would never in their life had the opportunity to shoot. To me, it's a matter of private property rights. If he's following all the laws, I don't believe that we should pass a law like that. Now, there's hunters that'll disagree, but I don't think that that's right on property rights issues.
Same question, Betty Grandy.
Well, it's my intention to vote no on that measure, and for the exact reasons that Representative Carlson has pointed out. It's a private property issue. The health department does regulate these, and we have the department, the DNR will be looking through that, and they keep track of that. And we just have the proper regulations in place, and so I think that we should just be able to proceed forward and not put a barrier on these people that have decided that this is the way they wanted to make their money.
Okay. Same question, Ty Haglund.
When it comes down to it, if the individual has followed all the regulations, he has just as much right to make a living as I do. And so I would vote no on measure number 2.
Thank you. We'll start with Betty Grandy with this question. North Dakota has a lot of energy which we export from North Dakota. We have numerous energy resources. However, one of the precious resources that we are exporting from North Dakota is trained and talented young people. What can we do to keep our young people busy in the state of North Dakota?
Keep them busy or keep them employed? Okay. You said to keep them busy. I just wanted to make sure we were on the right page here. Well, I have 3 children that are now really, I can't say I have 3 children anymore. I have 3 adults. My oldest is graduated from the NDSU and is currently employed in Fargo, and he asks me similar questions to that, is how do I find employment in the state in a different area, and how do I move in that? And my next child will be finishing up in another year out of NDSU, and he will be looking at the same issues. And I think that the best thing to do is use our common sense and our business sense and do everything we can to keep small businesses growing and working in North Dakota, deregulate if we need to, and just keep working to make sure that we can grow a strong business climate, because the small business people are the ones that are going to be doing the employing. Thank you.
Same question, Ty Haglund.
Well, as a young adult, I feel this question is pretty important to myself. To stop outward migration, we need to develop an atmosphere where we're improving wages outside of the oil patch. That includes not just providing a minimum wage, but a living wage. In addition, I would like to see jobs developed in our metro areas, since the majority of our 40,000 jobs that have been created under the the past administration were out in the energy patch.
Thank you. Same question, Al Carlson.
Repeat the question for me one more time.
What can we do to stem the outmigration of talented and educated young people from North Dakota?
Well, I've always maintained that in North Dakota you can't change the climate, but you can change the business climate. And you can change it so that it's advantageous to for businesses to grow and to hire our young people. And I think that we've done a pretty darn good job of that over the recent years. Now, have we stopped all the out-migration? Absolutely not. We train 200 engineers and we only have 30 positions for them in North Dakota. that are open, obviously a bunch of them are going to leave the state. Do we like that? No. But we also need to make our higher education system more reactive to the job markets that are available in North Dakota so that we train our kids so that there's a job for them when they're done. And that is how you do it. You have to have a business climate. Government doesn't create jobs that generate profit, that pay taxes, that help government function. What happens is private industry, private business, small business has to have a climate where they flourish. When they flourish, they hire people. When they hire people, salaries go up. When they do good work like our people do, the economy grows. And that's what we've attempted to do in our policies in the state of North Dakota. Just a recent survey that came out that North Dakota ranked with a percentage change from 2007 to 2008, we had an 8.7% increase in our per capita income. That was leading the nation. Now, our incomes are low, but we are working very hard to get them up and to create job opportunities for our kids.
Thank you. We'll start with a new question with Ty Hagelund. There's a lot of news about non-renewable energy resources in North Dakota, oil and coal. But what role does renewable energy play in North Dakota's energy plan?
Well, obviously, as you look at the long-term outlook of North Dakota, renewable energy is where our future lies. Luckily, North Dakota is sitting on essentially a Fort Knox of renewable energy. We need to work with entrepreneurs, local entities, to develop all the alternatives that we have available here in North Dakota: wind, ethanol, biomass, etc. But also we need to create a climate where individuals at a local level can have ownership stakes in these, whether it be co-ops, and so that we're keeping our dollars within our state.
Very good. Same question, Al Carlson.
Well, I would disagree a little bit that renewables are the future energy suppliers of North Dakota. I think they play a part in that, but there isn't a national survey that won't show you that 20 years from now, 40% of our energy supply in this country is still going to be supplied by coal. We're a large coal-producing state. There's a lot of people who don't believe there's such a thing as clean coal. We lead the nation in technology, in energy development, and in clean coal technology. The beneficiated coal, where they take the moisture out and they're burning it in our ethanol plants out in Richardton. That's a great thing. But we cannot ignore the fact that you need a base load. When the lights go out because the windmills aren't turning, we're going to wonder what happened, which means coal needs to power us. I certainly don't see us running a lot of battery-operated cars in the middle of January in North Dakota, simply because they don't work. So we are going to need to have an oil base to a lot of our fuel supplies. Do we need to, and the state of North Dakota, by the way, has stepped forward on many, many tax breaks for wind, for biodiesel, for ethanol. Over the years, we have spent millions of dollars to develop our natural resources. They have a part to play, but they will not be the only part in the future.
Same question, Betty Grandy.
Could you repeat the question, please?
What is the role of the North Dakota legislature in developing renewable energy for North Dakota?
Well, North Dakota is blessed with natural resources in every area. We are the source for independence energy in our country. The wind potential in North Dakota, we're number one. We are ranked in the top 10 in generation, but the problem is there's no transmission out. And without that, and it's not consistent. And as Representative Carlson pointed out, when the wind's blowing too much or not enough, there's no wind. So we need to rely on the fact that we are number 4 in the nation with oil. In the last 5 years, we've doubled in natural gas recovery in the Bakken area alone. We are 9th in the nation with coal. We are number 1 with the clean coal technology, with carbon capture, and with coal liquefaction. We are also the ones that are putting in there's quite a few pipelines coming in for our oil and for our natural gas, of which is going to add more. They have gas plants that we'll be putting up, and these are all jobs that will generate not just in the basin there, but across the whole western side of the state. And so this is just an area where we need to understand that we have put all the incentives in place. Every tax incentive is in place for that we've dealt with in finance and tax for wind, for ethanol, for biodiesel. Thank you.
Thank you. New question. We'll begin with Al Carlson. Will you support the bill to make the retirement for teachers a defined contribution rather than a defined benefit?
Well, unless you fully understand what all the differences are, you'd question why you would change. Across the nation, almost every teacher's retirement fund and public employee fund is not in very good shape. I do firmly believe, though, that when you've made a commitment to someone on a defined benefit, that it's our responsibility to keep that commitment. Representative Granity chairs the Employee Benefits Committee, so she can give you more of the inside, the latest information from our funds. But I can tell you that that in the future, states need to look at how they do their pension funds, because they are going to be bankrupt in many areas. We're fortunate enough to be on the edge, but okay, because of what happened in the market. So we need to be cautious, but when we made promises, I believe it's the state's responsibility to keep those promises. Looking forward, I believe we've got to look at new ideas.
Same question, Betty Grandy.
Well, it is a question that takes more than 1 minute to answer, especially when I've been studying it for 18 months and for many interims prior to that. But as far as the DB plan is, we are guaranteeing every current teacher the retirement plan that they have is theirs once they're vested, and so that does not change. And we have made some strides in passing out some legislation just a couple days ago to go forward into the session with, and we're going to help to put that plan back towards a solid fixture. Our committee also studied into the defined contribution, and we voted out it's a different type of interim committee. You either put something out favorable, unfavorable, or without recommendation. It's not a pass or fail. It's not something that you tell them they can or cannot move forward with. But we put out with no recommendation for continued study if somebody wishes to put forth a defined contribution bill, and I would support moving forward with that discussion.
Same question, Ty Haglund.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of short of an answer. Teachers are some of our greatest public servants that we have here in North Dakota. We have made a commitment to our teachers to provide for them. They have sacrificed so much for our kids, our communities, and for our future. And so I would honor our commitment. I would definitely support a defined benefit.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Betty Grandy. Do you support autism services being covered under the North Dakota PRS plan?
The what plan?
The PERS.
PERS.
Oh, under the PERS plan.
Right.
Are we talking about the insurance plan? Is that what we're trying to talk about?
All I have is a question. It says, do you support autism services being covered under the North Dakota PERS, P-E-R-S plan?
Public Employment Retirement
That's
System.
the retirement system. So, okay, so you're looking for the health care insurance? Oh, okay. The committee had that bill presented to us in April. It was brought out with a couple of studies bringing forward on that. The spectrum was not defined, nor the what was going to be covered in the full treatment of that. The costs came in fairly high, and so what our committee recommended was to send it forward into the session if the bill sponsors wished to continue to do so without recommendation, and told them that they should bring in further study.
Okay. Thank you. Same question, Ty Haglund.
Well, to be pretty frank, autism has clearly been defined as a neurological disorder. And by no means should any of our state legislators advocate against services for kids who, by no fault of their own, have autism. I struggle with some of the recent decisions on autism services being covered by health insurance. And so I would completely advocate that it is covered under health insurance plans here in North Dakota.
Thank you. Same question, Al Carlson.
Well, thank you. From a plan perspective, looking at the whole perspective, we always have to actuarially study what the effect it will be on the total premiums that the state pays. And in the state, we're very unusual. We pay 100% of the health care costs. There are some deductibles, but we pay the entire premium. Every time we push forward unfunded mandates requires that that premium goes up. Whether we should be covering prostate cancer has always been a debate. We've debated over the issue of dealing with breast cancer and the screening for that. So my recommendation is that you look at it, you get the actuarial information, and then you make a decision. I can't tell you if it costs $2 a month more on the premium or if it costs $20 a month more. But I can tell you that it'll be looked at, and we'll have to make a decision based upon that when we get that particular type of information back from our actuaries. Because all those things that you mandate do cost money, and you need to address whether or not that is one of those services we're going to provide or not. It's pretty hard to say that you think that autism shouldn't be dealt with. I mean, you wouldn't say that. But again, you have to look at other areas where the next one comes in and says, well, why don't you cover prostate cancer for men? You cover breast screening for women. So there are issues that we deal with as we look as a whole package, and we'll definitely look at it.
Ms. Saltburn, I'd like to explain that because I don't think the question was clear compared to the answer that was given. We're not talking about the services. The educational services portion was in a different committee and is a different discussion. Educational services are not covered under insurance no matter what. But the medical coverage is what was being discussed, and the cost and the actuarial effect to the PERS insurance program. Those are two different issues. We're not talking about whether or not we can define what autism is, and that's not what I said. I didn't say we don't know what autism is. We don't know which portions of the spectrums and what they were looking for the medical coverages. That's the clarity on a very specific issue when it comes to the autism and what we were looking at covering. The Employee Benefits Committee doesn't deal with the other side of that. We have a scope of only one portion that we're to look at.
Thank you. Ty Hagelin, do you want to respond, or are you ready for the next question?
No, I already stated my point. I think it was pretty clear.
Okay. The next question is, Head Start is a proven, effective national investment in the education and support of 3- and 4-year-old children. Yet, only 60% of the children who are eligible for Head Start in North Dakota participate because of a lack of funding. North Dakota is the only one of 9 states that do not invest on a statewide level in a Head Start program. Would you support investing state money for Head Start to increase the number of children 3 and 4 years old participating in Head Start?
Well, absolutely, I support Head Start programs here in our state. My daughter is in preschool. She's 4 years old. And there's so many disadvantaged kids in our state who deserve to have that right footing. The research shows that if we can get to kids before age 6, with different programs like Head Start, like S-CHIP, the benefits that we will receive as a state, as communities, as future employees, is great. And so absolutely I would support any funding that came down the pipeline for Head Start.
Same question, Al Carlson.
I can honestly tell you I'm not an expert on the Head Start program. I know there are cities and areas that do have Head Start programs. Exactly how they're funded, I'm not sure, whether they're funded locally, whether they're funded by the county, but there are Head Start programs. Again, it's the total education of the kid that we deal with. I can't answer you whether or why we have not funded it in the past, but I know there are Head Start programs in the state.
Same question, Betty Grandy.
Well, as far as Head Start goes, yes, it is. It can be considered a very good program, but there's also studies out there that I had just read about today, and it said that Head Start was earning an F in its programs due to it doesn't have a lasting impact on the students once they reach first grade, and that meaning that they have been equaled out and not farther ahead as they had been promoted. You can compare one study to another study, and we can all pull our own studies on every issue. But also to know that there was $25 billion just put more into the federal fund. This is a federal program. It's whether or not the states wish to pick up any more funding on that, but we already have that, and it's up to each of these areas, to counties, to decide how they're going to put forth those programs.
Thank you. Time has flown, and it's time for our 2-minute summary statement. We're going to begin with Al Carlson.
Well, once again, thanks to the League of Women Voters. It's always interesting to hear the variety of questions that come forward, and it's our job to respond to those and react to those and to tell you what the state or what we have been doing on those questions. I can tell you that in the years that I have been in the legislature, I've been a strong proponent of making this a pro-growth state, pro-economic development, pro-growth, because I believe the private sector is what drives the state of North Dakota. We have, in the last session, we did 3 things. We said we had 3 things to accomplish. We had to, number 1, fund our priorities. And let me tell you, that list got pretty long last session because we had money. The second thing was what we were to do was to make sure that we had a reserve. So if the recession that's across the nation creeps into North Dakota, that we can afford to operate the government to the programs with which we wanted to fund. The third thing was to return money to the taxpayers. And we did that. We returned $295 million in property tax relief, and because of action in the House of Representatives, led by the Republicans, we extended that for 2 more years and funded it to a 4-year program for property tax relief. We also lowered everybody's income tax rates, corporate and individual, and for $100 million worth of lowering those. Not with a sunset, not to be raised later like the federal government does. It's a permanent reduction in those taxes. With that, we still have a surplus to deal with as we go forward into the next biennium. It's a matter of funding your priorities, staying on point to create jobs, to fund education. We all understand that's the backbone of our state. And by doing that, we believe that we are going to create a stronger future for the state of North Dakota. I'm asking for your vote. This would be my 10th session coming up. I've had the privilege of being the majority leader where I can help direct things, and there are 2 awful important things for North Dakota, actually 3, infrastructure, permanent flood protection for the Red River Valley, and to assist those people in Devils Lake area. Those are big items, and they're in addition to all our other priorities. So I ask for your vote. I thank you for your time tonight.
Okay. 2-minute summary statement, Betty Grandy.
Thank you, and thank you to the League once again. It's a privilege to just be here and have the opportunity to answer questions. We have an opportunity here to just, I just want to say thank you to my family for their support. My husband has just been wonderful throughout my tenure with having our kids growing up while I would come and go from Bismarck and out into the session. And it's wonderful to see that one of my children were able to make it here tonight, and the other 2 were, one's at hockey practice, the other's probably working on another project. And with that, it's just nice to know that they had an interest in being a part of the process, and they've always been there for me, and I just want to say thank you to them for that. I see that this next session, it's going to be very important to have people out there that are going to be watchdogs of the taxpayers' dollars. This isn't the state's money, this is the taxpayers' money, and we have to be careful as to how it's spent and do it with priorities. As Representative Carlson said, we have to name the priorities and stick to it, and try get as much money back into the taxpayers' pockets where it belongs and where it should stay. With that, we need to stick with our priorities, the roads and the issues in the West with oil and gas, issues and what's going on with the growth there. I grew up in North Dakota. I'm a Williston girl, as they call me when I go back home, and as much as I've been in Fargo longer than that there, that's what happens when I come home. And so the other is water issues. We put aside money for the Fargo flood, and we'll continue to work on those issues. And Devils Lake is always going to be a big issue. My older brother is now a pastor in the Devils Lake area, so I get to hear about Devils Lake just about every day. And so we know those are our priorities. I ask you for your vote, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Ty Haglund, a candidate for the District 41 House of Representatives in the state of North Dakota. Time for your 2-minute summary speech.
All right, thank you. Once again, I want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for allowing us to discuss the pertinent issues that face our districts and our district and our residents. Throughout the last 4 months, I've attempted to run a campaign the right way. Unlike my opponents, I have knocked on all of your doors at least once, often twice, in an attempt to create meaningful dialogue about what matters to you. In conjunction, you have had the chance to get to know me and get to see my life of service that I've led for our community. It is this sense of service that I want to put to work for the residents of District 41. Together, we can accomplish a lot, and that is why I'd appreciate your vote on November 2nd. I appreciate all of your time.
Thank you. Now we come to the end of this session where the candidates in District 41. I want to say thank you to Frank Kratke for screening the questions. I want to say thank you for Jan Jackson for doing the timing. I want to especially say thank you to Ardis Holland. That's a difficult one to say. Ardis Holland for being tireless and being at all these sessions and helping with everything that needed to be done, especially collecting the cards, handing out the cards, handing out the pencils. And I want to say thank you to the co-president of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley, Patty Kratke, for also being at all of these sessions. I want to thank the audience for coming, for participating, and I hope you will take advantage of the opportunity to talk to candidates this evening. Thank you.
Yeah.
For our last debate of this evening, it will be for candidates for the Director of Garrison Diversion. We have two candidates tonight, and they are Roger Fenstead and John Lindgren. We are going to start with John Lindgren. And John, we want you to give a 2-minute introductory statement as you are a candidate for Director of the Garrison Diversion Project.
Thank you, Lois. I have been on the board now for 18 years, so I'm one of those people that knows more about it maybe than I wish I knew. But the Garrison Diversion Project is primarily a project these days to bring water to the Red River Valley. And I have here an environmental impact statement that was finished in 2007, and some copies over on the table and some other diagrams of this project, which is almost $1 billion project that we have been working on for many years. It is currently tied up in Washington, awaiting signatures to sign off on this document, and then there are many other hurdles, but all of them we're kind of optimistic that one day we will use the water in Lake Sakakawea, that it will come east and cross the Continental Divide in a pipeline. The pipeline goes into the Cheyenne River. The Cheyenne River comes into the Red River Valley. When I first went on the board, it was primarily a group of people interested in irrigation, and I had much difficulty during that period of time trying to refocus the whole enterprise to look at the eastern part of the state. But after some years, this did happen. We began studies for a water supply for Fargo and West Fargo and Grand Forks and the Red River Valley. We began putting Garrison Diversion's own cash into these studies, and then later on we were reimbursed by the Bureau of Reclamation and so on. Anyway, this is the current output of all of that effort that started about 10 years ago. It's an interesting job. I enjoy doing it. But it is a thing that is a long-standing and slow process. And my own role, I've found, has been to act as sort of a conduit between the city of Fargo, which has very complex politics, and the rest of the state. So that's why I've been doing and what I've been doing. Thank you.
Very good. 2-minute introductory speech for Roger Fenstead, candidate for Director of the Garrison Diversion Project. Roger Fenstead.
Thank you, Lois. I'm running for the office for the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District to represent Cass County because I feel that it is an extremely important position, especially for the future going on here. A lot of people misinterpret the diversion, Garrison Diversion, as something to do with the Fargo Diversion, and it is not. It is, as John said, it is for water. The main focus that would be primarily in the Cass County area would be the water supply, for supplemental water supply for future if we had a drought and so on in the eastern end of the state. And the project that John referred to is not the only focus of the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District. They also are involved in water projects throughout the state, coming and help funding reliable water and drinking water throughout the state. So it isn't only for the eastern part of the state. I have a long history of familiarity and working in many of these other areas besides Cass County. Very familiar with the Garrison Conservancy District. I've gone through them to help get money for mutual projects throughout the area. And so I think it's important to have someone here that understands this. And obviously, it's primarily important. The big deal right now is for the Red River Valley. It's going to be difficult to get all the funding we need, but this project really looks good for the future. I think it's very positive. There's some very good things happening right now.
Okay, thank you. I encourage the audience to write questions for our candidates this evening, and we're going to have questions that will require a 1-minute answer. The first question from the audience is, what does the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District do?
Boy, I can't answer that yet. You want me to go?
I don't care. Who's first?
Yeah.
You are first.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What do? They primarily are a entity to help fund various projects throughout the state. They have 7 working committees, 6 of which are working. One of them is basically their executive committee, but it's for each county. There's 28 counties in the Garrison Conservancy District. Each county supplies a 1 mil levy. If tax dollars that go to help fund the district and pay expenses and so on, and each county then has a representative on their board of directors, so it's a very large board of directors. They take and are split up into committees that fund recreation projects, MR&I, which is municipal, rural, and industrial projects throughout the state, the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, agricultural, irrigation, projects like this. So it's basically a funding agency.
Candidate John Lindgren, do you wish to add to Roger Fensted's
I wanted to
statement?
compliment Roger on a good summary of many things that go on there. It's a multifaceted thing. But another part of it, which is not recognized as often as it should be, is state water policy. So Monday there was a huge meeting in Bismarck that I attended, and the idea was to establish water policy for our legislators, and we fund the Water Coalition. We fund a large part of it, which is supposed to develop water policy. And so the Garrison Diversion is not only just represents those 28 counties, but it has a lot of input into what water policies are in the state, what money goes, what the legislature is asked to do, what projects they're asked to fund. And it kind of has a different take on water policy than the State Water Commission, because it's located in Carrington instead of Bismarck and has different things going on there. But nevertheless, it is an important agency, I think, in the state of North Dakota. And when someone asks me, how is water policy made in North Dakota, I always say, do you have a couple days to explain it? It's very complex. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start now with John Lindgren. The question is, under whose authority does the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District operate?
I guess I would summarize it by saying there are 2 authorities. One authority is in the state code, which outlines its responsibilities and the rules, the state law under which it operates. And the other is through the Bureau of Reclamation, which, and so the state operates directly with many federal agencies, but in terms of the Bureau of Reclamation, which was the agency that was established to deal mostly with irrigation issues, that bureau deals only with Garrison Diversion, or the contracts are with it. I wouldn't say it deals only with, but that's they are the conduit into the state of projects that fall under the Bureau of Reclamation.
Thank you. Do you want to reply to the same question, Roger Fensted, or would you like another question?
I can reply to the same or whatever. I mean, I don't disagree with John on most of the end of it, but it was established back in when Garrison Dam was built through the Flood Act. I think it was Sloan Pick Act or something like that in 1944, and 1955 the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District was formed, and it came through federal legislation because of the dam to run water from Sakakawea to be able to use it for facilities throughout North Dakota. That's what it was originally set up to be done for any of those counties that participated.
Okay. And Roger Fensted, I'll let you start with the next question. What is the budget, the yearly budget, for the North Dakota Diversion Conservancy District that the board that you seek to serve on?
Well, the yearly budget obviously varies every year. So there's a general budget, and then there's their funding that comes in from the federal government. The federal government portion of the budget, where they get their funding for most of their projects, varies greatly every year. In 2009, I think it was $25 million that that they got from the federal government. I think their general fund budget was around $3 million, $3.5 million, something like that.
Reply to the same question,
Yeah.
John Lindgren.
Roger gave, I think, a good summary of it. Basically, each of the 28 counties pays in 1 mill. So for Cass County, of course, we're the largest county, and our mill is, $100 and some thousand, $120,000. So Garrison Diversion then adds all those counties together, so it comes to something over $1 million of this cash flow from the 28 counties. And that kind of funds its offices and the building and those things. And then it has revenue from left over from the Bureau of Reclamation when it took over the maintenance of the canals, so it earns some profit off of that. It earns profit off of interest rates of accumulated money that's waiting to be spent. And so it has several sources of revenue, but Roger did a pretty good job of summarizing it. It has about 8 or 10 employees.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with John Lindgren. Do you think that the money spent on fighting Red River flooding is interfering with funding for the Garrison Diversion Project?
That's a really good community question, and one that I've wondered about myself. And I think that, yes, they do compete in certain ways. Certainly going to Congress, our senators and representatives have said that they can't get the federal money for the 2 projects at the same time. So the city has made the decision that the flooding monies have stepped now in front of the money of this project, whereas before this was in the front seat. So in that way, they compete, and the city has made a decision, which I don't argue with. Of course, the other thing I wonder about is the sales tax. I'm opposed to the half-cent sales tax for the flooding issue because the project is so uncertain. And I'm afraid that if something goes awry with this half-cent and the money isn't able to be used but is accumulated for that purpose, then we have a drought, which incidentally, and here's a picture of 2006 over in Valley City where we get our water. It was down to minimum flow, so a drought is only a year away at any time, and we need to think about both projects, both flooding and drought at the same time, I think. Thank you.
Would you like to respond to this question? Roger Fensted.
Yes, thank you. I do think they compete with each other for funding. It is true that our congressmen and senators have said that it's going to be very difficult to get the federal share of the dollars for both the large diversion project as well as for the supplemental water supply for the Red River Valley, because they're both very large projects and both need a large federal input in dollars to make them work. So they do compete. I think I agree with John. The city of Fargo has chosen to go ahead and pick the flood control as the priority right now, and I agree with that. At the same time, the Red River Valley water supply, supplemental water supply project is moving forward on the state end and local end. They have the design for this project 30% done. They've got proposed for the new budget at the state $20 million to not only finish the design but get the land acquisition done, as well as the to do some construction. There are some construction items they can do before they get the record of decision from the Department of Interior, which is critical to the federal funding. So it will be difficult, but we can do some things to go hand in hand for a while.
Okay. The next question, we'll start with Roger Fensted. How long has the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District project been going on, and is there a target date for its completion?
Well, the original Garrison diversion was started in 1955, as I mentioned earlier, and the focus has changed. The original focus was for bringing water to the east for irrigation purposes. They've refocused that to a water supply type projects. It isn't that irrigation's totally out, but water supply is the primary focus. So when is that going to get completed? If you look at what the new focus is, your guess is as good as mine, but it'll take many, many years to do all the things that need to be done.
Same question, John Lindgren.
I agree with that. The one that we're working on now, the water supply project, has been going on for about 10 years, and it is possible that we might be letting bids in between 2 to 5 years. Sometimes people say these things, but there are many questions at the federal level as to whether or not this will actually happen. But I think we need to keep on moving ahead with the planning. And we have land options on nearly all the land where the pipe will go, and I think it's a matter of going a few steps further, and eventually we will have a date for a bid letting.
Next question, John Lindgren. Does the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District project deal at all with downstream issues and downstream issue politics? The downstream issues and downstream issue politics have been in the news quite a bit lately.
Somehow, I think that is mixing up the flood project. Is that the way you would interpret that? It's mixing up the flood project. The Garrison diversion is not a diversion of the river for the flood. The Garrison diversion is a diversion of Missouri River over the Continental Divide into Fargo, and that's why that name diversion is given. And then the word diversion came up again during the flood, so it's kind of confusing to people, and I understand that. I might just digress a little bit to talk about the project. The pipeline, the pipe for this project will be 60 inches in diameter. And it's such a big project that the pipe supply companies have told us they will actually set up a factory here in Fargo to bring in the flat sheets of metal and then bend them to conform and weld them up to become pipes, and there will be liners in it. So it's quite when it happens, it will be quite a monumental project. Roughly speaking, local places like Fargo and West Fargo will pay about 30% of it, and the federal government will pay 30% and the state government 30%.
The next question, do you believe that the Garrison Diversion project has any effect on the concerns with Devil's Lake? Roger Fenstead.
No, it really doesn't have any concerns with regard to Devil's Lake. A totally separate issue. Devil's Lake's a serious problem in the state and has to be dealt with, but the Garrison Diversion Conservancy District has, in this particular case, to get water supply to the east for the Red River Valley water supply, no, it really does not have anything to do with it. I think the federal and state governments have to deal with the Devil's Lake issues now. They cannot wait. It's a serious problem.
Yeah, John Lindgren, I'll just, so you don't have to introduce me. Roger's very correct that technically they are separate, but we do discuss Devil's Lake quite a bit at Garrison Diversion meetings. Several of the members live in its path or in its wake, and we do fund Joe Belford, the person who is kind of the face of the Devil's Lake crisis, and as Roger said, that's a serious problem our state faces, and I hope that all of the decision makers that are involved in this can help to alleviate that problem.
Thank you. The time has come for your 2-minute summary statement, and would you emphasize in your summary statement why you feel you are the best director for the Garrison Diversion Project? Okay, Roger Fenstead, if you'd like to go first, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Lois. I feel that I'm the most qualified to do the job. Obviously, I haven't been on the board for 18 years. I would be new to the board, but I'm a civil engineer. I've been working in the civil engineering field and the water field for 39 years. I have a very good understanding of the needs of the state of North Dakota, and Garrison Diversion Conservancy District deals with the state. It isn't just the Red River Valley. But the Red River Valley, it's extremely important, and I've worked in the Fargo, West Fargo area since 1974. So I feel very, very strongly that I have great qualifications to bring to the board, not only in bringing ideas, but in management and leadership to help focus the funding and the technical into this project to get it to completion, to help facilitate getting it through all the struggles that we have to go through to get there. I've done it with millions and millions of dollars of projects, and this is a huge project compared to that, no question, but I feel very, very qualified to do it.
Okay. Summary statement, answer to the same question, John Lindgren.
Well, my background is different than Roger's. Mine is as an economist, but also as a political person. And much of the obstacles that we face in this project actually are people problems. They are getting the public on board, and then getting city officials and rural officials and all the people who will use the water, getting them on board and trying to have them get along with each other and then get along with the Garrison Diversion. And then further you go to the legislature to try to make sure that the legislature approves and supports what all these various entities are all about. One of the things that has been an ongoing struggle for me on Garrison Diversion, or an ongoing struggle of Garrison Diversion, has been the idea that over here in the Red River Valley, we all have so much money that we're just awash with money. And why should the rest of the state or the other counties in the Garrison Diversion or the other areas in the legislature, why should they put money into Fargo when Fargo can pay for everything itself? And I do have this experience of knowing water users, citizens that called the mayor all those years lamenting about how hard it was to pay all the bills that they had, and they certainly cannot have a water bill that suddenly goes through the ceiling. They have a budget just like governments and businesses do, and cannot pay more for water than the money that they have. And so that's the kind of experience that I bring to it, and I hope that I've helped the project along and helped the citizens in Cass County, and I'd like to do it another term. Thank you.
Thank you. And this brings to an end all of our candidates' meetings for the League of Women Voters with the candidates for the Garrison Diversion Conservancy Project. And I want to say thank you for the candidates for turning up this evening and be willing to speak on public interest television. I want to thank Jeremy for manning the cameras over there. I want to thank Jan Jackson for doing the timing. I want to thank Frank Kratke for screening the questions. I want to thank Artist Holland for picking up the questions and taking care of everything, and for being here for all of the sessions. And I want to thank the co-chairman of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley, Patty Kratke, for being here for all the sessions. Thank you, and everybody get out and vote. Thank you.